Bill, where are you at?
I'm in the boardroom.
Okay, we're live. Okay, I call this meeting to order, the February 16th Legislative Committee meeting at 2 o'clock. First business is the agenda. Take a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Berry was first. Is there any additions? Any deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Next up, the minutes of our last regular ledge meeting. Councillor Lemko, thank you very much. We've all had a chance to go through the minutes. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. So first up today, we have Mr. Phil Rowe, Community Services Director. He's going to give us some insight to a new community park beside Valid and beside the two buildings that belong to senior housing, senior housing. So go ahead, Phil.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me fine? Good. So this is a project plan initiated by Valid Group. It's in conjunction with the Co-op Community Spaces Grant. It's an annual grant given out to develop community spaces, and that must meet certain criteria. So the plan that we came up with Valid and through Tourism and Culture and Recreation was to create a community park green space that would include 10 raised community garden plots, a walking trail, a gazebo, small playground, and flower beds. When the project is complete, it would, and Council has an attached plan there. Community members, specifically residents of VEG Senior Housing, and to be able to plant gardens. The garden would utilize Valid clients to assist in maintenance of the gardens and vocational training. It would provide a much needed safe walking path for the seniors in the area, and it would be wheelchair accessible path as well. It would allow for a small playground that could be utilized by children and offer the option for the seniors at VEG Senior Housing to play with their grandchildren. Flower beds would give both VEG Senior Housing residents and Valid clients the opportunity to plant flowers and offer them productive outdoor activities along with meaningful socialization. The gazebo would offer a shelter for seniors during walks or gardening from the sun on hot days, place to relax and have conversations with family and friends. And we've also included in the grant application a swing specifically designed for wheelchairs. So wheelchairs can hook onto this swing, and if somebody was wheelchair that needed wheelchair accessibility, that they could swing in the gazebo. The town, the town currently owns and maintains the green space area in which we're looking at. Upon completion, the town would assume the ownership and maintenance of the park, and it would be open for full public use, not just Valid and senior housing, but open for the public as well. And Valid would assume some grass cutting as part of vocational training with their clients and some weeding. The total cost estimate of the project is $122,000. And there is an update to this. We're looking at having water source available, big water containers, raised water containers, so that the people who have the gardens there can water their plants. Additional trees and benches along the walking path would be available by donations as part of the Legacy Tree and Bench program as well. So this is where we're currently at. The grant is being fully completed by Valid. The only part of the town is we did have some labor in kind, some black dirt for them. And of course, Annie and myself working with Valid and VEG Senior Housing on this. We would require a letter from Council of support if Council so approves this project.
Okay, Thank you, Phil. Just to clarify one thing, we would still own the property, that the municipality would still own the property, correct?
Absolutely, yes. It's like any playground that community organization does. If it's on town land, we basically assume we have the ownership, but we assume the liability and responsibility of that green space because we do already.
So, thank you for the work you put in, and in conjunction with the land use department and with Valid. I know when you guys pitched this to me, I thought it was a very good idea at the time. I would like now to take some questions of council. That's probably the first time they're hearing about it. Councilor Barry, would you like to go on this?
Well, I think that it's a really good project, especially being right beside the couple of seniors residences there. I think that the opportunity for them to have garden space there and flowers and the gazebo and the walkways, I really like it. I think that it's a good location and a good project.
Anybody else have any questions or, okay, Councilor Waters, you were first.
I too, I like the project. I like the idea. I'm very happy to see that it's accommodating those with mobility issues when it comes to the swings or the playground equipment like that. You know, I am looking for something for people with challenges for that. So that's really good to see. And location is excellent. So the maintenance of it, so we would be responsible for maintaining any playground equipment that's there. If they need top-ups of soil, that kind of stuff like that, still the town's responsibility then?
Yes, it's very similar to our community gardens now. We do the maintenance of it initially, and then the people who rent the garden plots look after it, and then we look after the fall, getting things cleared out, and we already maintain the grass there. We will do some grass cutting, but it's a collaboration with Valid to give their clients some vocational experience as well. But the grass maintenance will be severely reduced with all of these items that would be in that green space.
And the reason I pretty much said the black dirt is because I've been hearing from a few people that are using the community gardens right now. It's very sandy and they're needing the black dirt. So just wanting to make sure that the maintenance level of the soil, if we're looking after it, is done properly.
Yeah, we're gonna get them some newer black dirt to fill into those gardens, and we'll make sure that they're properly maintained over the years. That's just been the issue over the last couple of years with the current community gardens, that it just become overrun by weeds because of its location. And this will be much different. They're actually raised beds, so the seniors won't have to get down on their hands and knees. They'll be able to just sit down on a ledge and work their specific garden plot.
Okay, Councilor Lemon next, and then Councilor Rudy.
Yes, I think this is a very, very good idea. Anytime we can enhance our green space, especially in a space like that, close to the senior facilities, combining with Valid being part of the project or being the main person responsible for the project, but more importantly is a chance for our seniors to have a little better quality of life, a place to go out and in the sun and work the gardens. And the beauty of this is it's through a grant process. So we're the benefactor as well as the community is. So great idea. I fully support it.
Okay, Councilor Rudy.
So we did talk about this at Valid. I'm a board member there. And so I'd spoken with the CAO about how this would be possible, potentially partnering with a few different groups. So I'm glad to see these conversations were already taking place. Anytime that we can have collaboration between different groups, in this case, it would be Valid and potentially the seniors, but also the intergenerational opportunities there. I think it's fantastic. The other question that comes to mind, are these plots intended only for seniors that live in those two areas? Or is it like the current community garden that is up for, I guess, lottery application? And would that other space still be in operation? Or if we had enough people that were interested, there would be potentially a revamping at the museum as there was times gone by?
Okay, to answer the first question, yes, the garden plots will be open to the public, just like the ones that we did before. We're going to gauge with VEG Senior Housing how much support there is to use the gardens. We've actually left space, so we can have more than 10 garden plots. That's just what we budgeted for in this grant. Was for 10, but we certainly could look down the road to increase that number. And we are currently looking at some funding that different set of funding that possibly we could commence some construction on the new garden plots out at the Vegreville Museum Center. And the idea would be to get rid of the ones in their current location.
Okay. Well, we'll bring forth Councillor Warwa. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, I just had one question, Phil, and I know that what I'm about to ask has its own problematic follow-up, should it be, but I'm just wondering, given that we're looking at an area that we're encouraging people to maybe play with grandchildren and also the garden plots, is there any plans or thoughts about possible like restroom facilities? I realize what we'd be looking at would be more porta potty, which has its own vandalism and other issue. I'm just wondering if they talked about that at all.
No, we do not include any porta potties in this. Traditionally, our parks don't have bathroom access, except for the Pissinka Park, of course, which is much more than just a park. And the ones at 47th Street, those were specifically put in for the football, not for the playground itself. So there was no thought given to bathrooms at this point.
Okay, and the only reason I asked that is just I was thinking like vicinity of where their next closest place would be essentially, but I guess if they were going to a public facility for that.
Well, and again, the purpose of this proposal is to give the seniors in those two facilities a place where they can practice their gardening and spend some time with family members, plus the vocational training part with their clients, the interaction of their clients. So those two big users will have access through their own buildings. So I don't see a lot of other people coming down there. We're going to have another spot for community gardens for the offer to the community. I'm thinking that hopefully that between the two seniors complexes and with Valet pitching in there with their clients, getting some training and stuff, I see maybe a person walk in there for the day or the afternoon with their visiting, but there's, for all the seniors that live in that area, they'll already have the access through their building. So, okay, well, it's a good idea, and let's get the letter ready, and we'll get it off in support of this project.
Perfect, thank you, Your Worship. And the next one is mine too, so.
Go ahead.
So this is for council information, reopening of the aquatic center, the pool. So I'm gonna run off a list of what we can offer our residents based on new updates for indoor activities that were talked about in the latest update from Dr. Henshaw. So first, all appointments for the pool will be by booking only. Those booking and canceling will be held to their bookings through a fee that will be paid. There have been a few instances in the past where certain people are booking all the times and they're not showing up. This was brought up a few weeks ago by Councillor Rudick, and that has been addressed. So we will be booking people and we'll be holding them to their bookings. So for lane swim, we have 5 lanes currently. We will open only 3 of them, and that will maintain the 3-meter distance between the lane swimmers. So it'll be lanes 1, 3, and 5. Aquafit classes, it'll be a maximum of 10, including instructors. That we will be able to maintain the 3-meter distance. It was done before in the previous opening back in September, I believe. Aquafit classes, private lessons, group swimming lessons, and swim club all fit in the same category to a maximum of 10 people, including instructors. Spectators will not be allowed at this point. It'll be a drop off and pickup only. We'll reassess this as the guidelines permit. It'll also be available for family rentals only to a maximum of 10 people in an immediate family only. There'll be extra costs for water slide and pool toys because they will have to be cleaned after their usage. The change rooms will be open for shower and washroom use only. The lockers are still completely covered and taped off. One of the considerations that Alberta Health is requesting is entry and exit of patrons. So our main entry and exit will be done through the sliding glass doors, and then they will follow paths that's specific to entry and specific to exit, so that there won't be any cross path of people entering and exiting. Plus, they will also be staged in terms of times that they'll be let in as per their booking, and this will allow for staff to clean in between the sessions. Masks, all patrons will wear a mask during their visit until they are actually in the pool for their exercise. Guards and instructors will wear a mask while teaching and supervising. These are special masks for lifeguards that are water resistant, and we'll provide them. And we are hoping, with council's approval, to have an opening date of February 22nd. Yes, and so if it's approved, we'll update the media website and social media. So if there's any questions, I'll try to answer the best I can now.
I imagine we're going to have a few, so wherever you guys want to start. Okay, I'll start, Phil. So you can book the pool plus the slide, but only for members under your own roof. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Your Worship. It has to be immediate family only that is in the same household.
And we're willing to check on that.
Yes, and we're only going to open this family rental to Vegreville and area residents, so we are generally comfortable that we'll know which families are using it.
Okay, anybody else? Councilor Rudick.
2 questions. I'm wondering about the enforcing of the family only residing in one household. It's been a challenge in restaurants already as they open, and it's very difficult for, I would assume, lifeguards that would be asked to make that determination, because the booking is one thing and then the people that show up is another. So just want to find out what our contingency plan is or how we plan on working that with staff. And then my second question is this the type of opening that is similar in other municipalities?
Okay, so to answer the first one, they will be greeted by someone at the front desk where they'll check in and confirm the family identity. I do see the point. It is difficult unless you knew the exact family, but we will do our best to confirm that it is that specific family only. And your second question, there was an ARPA town hall meeting on last Thursday that Mike and I took part in, and this pools were brought up, and as a big issue in a lot of communities to get their pools opened. We're running the pool as it is. The pumps are running, it's being chlorinated, it's being heated, we have to. So municipalities are wanting to get their facilities open. It meets the exact same guidelines as other indoor sporting events. So the question was raised about pools, and we got pretty much the exact same answer, that if it fits under the regulations, you're good. So we've done lots of checking on this, and other municipalities are doing this exact same thing to do their best to try and open the pool for their community.
Okay, so, go ahead, Councillor Waters.
So am I assuming that the hot tub and the sauna will not be open? And I'm asking because like with Aquafit, some of the participants like to use the hot tub after.
At this point, the sauna was never open. That was turned off simply because we couldn't maintain the distancing of people coming in and out. And the hot tub was open, but the hot tub will remain closed until we hear more feedback from the province. But at this point, it'll just be for those swimming activities.
Okay, well, hopefully everything goes good. Nice to see that, they're under the right precautions being taken and protocols being followed, that we can reopen the pool. I would strongly recommend that Mr. Cliff Craig and yourself talk to the employees at the pool. No favoritism is shown, no blind eye is ever turned to somebody that may not be a family member, and then try to enforce it later, because I can guarantee you right now that it won't take long for it to get back to a member of this council if there was a blind eye turned in one case and then the restrictions were forced on another case. So I would bring that up with the employees. I actually have some stuff to talk about later today about this. So, okay, thank you very much. Does anybody else have anything else about the opening of the pool? Okay, hopefully it'll all go good. Thank you. Mr. Dale Lefevre, are you ready to go with your presentation?
I am ready, Your Worship. This package was put together last week after a conversation with the mayor. We all know that we've talked about compactors for a few budget runs now, on and off. What has really brought this up to life is, as you know, that in 2020, January 1st, we started weighing the loads, physically weighing all the commercial haulers that come in. So it gave us a solid number to work with, as opposed to estimations and what is the average a truck could weigh and how many trucks there were. So this is good information. And what we're getting right now is that our commercial haulers are hauling in what the town and this portion of the county of Minburn are hauling in per year. So they've collectively doubled the amount of refuse coming into our landfill, which we know means that if the landfill had 52 years left, well, now we're back to 25, right? So I'll just go through the points that we've brought up. And again, that's why this has come to light now and not at actual budget time, because we finally just got our last of our numbers in and compiled together. So we have some facts to work with now. So landfill compaction, just do some background. Landfill operations redesign project. So at the beginning of the project means the beginning of 2020, the Municipal Services Department began weighing all the loads from our commercial haulers and keeping track of it. We also know that in 2020, the landfill rates were set at $25 a ton for commercial haulers, and that came into effect at the same time. As we see the increase of material coming to the landfill, we also are spending more time trying to compact it with the equipment we have. It's a lot more material coming in, and we have to be as diligent as we can with our crawler loader. Okay, so also if we get the type of compaction that Alberta Environment would like us to get, and what we want to get is the most compaction we can get, obviously, it's going to mean stepping into a different piece of equipment that's more designed for compaction. And we'll get into that as this proposal rolls along. Remember, it is a requirement of Alberta Environment and Parks that it is compacted. Somehow, some way, it has to be compacted. The biggest point with compaction, obviously, is space, which is very valuable. It's to remove the air from every cubic meter that you're compacting. And one bonus of doing that is if you've got it compacted down and the air's out of it, then we don't have as much of a fire issue, which we have had a few fires at the landfill and they're extremely difficult to extinguish. So if we can pound that down really good, then that removes that threat as well. So on page 3, I just want to talk a little bit about how we're doing things today and have been for many years. We've always utilized a crawler loader. So that's a track machine with a large bucket that gives us some compaction. And really what we've got is a crossover machine. We've got something that's doing some compacting. We can use it to load trucks. We can use it to push garbage over. We can use it to pick up fill so we can cover the dirt or the garbage daily as required by Alberta Environment. So we've got one machine that's doing all the jobs and doing all of them okay, but not doing any one of them very well. You know what I mean? When you get into that, you're trying to do a lot of multiple things with one machine. This machine at 2020 that we currently have now at the landfill, we have budgeted approximately 77,000 a year going into our reserve. So that every 5 years we can replace this piece of equipment, because with it being the only machine out there, it's getting a lot of hours and unfortunately it's getting a lot of miles put on it. So if it's up on the working face of the landfill and then we need to come down and push metal piles, wood piles, tidy up. If a couple of trucks roll in from town, our trucks, and we need to haul some asphalt millings, what have you, then the crawler loader will clickety clackety clack all the way back down the hill to load a few trucks and then go right back up again. So we're just finding we're putting a lot of kilometers on this machine, which, as you can tell by the type of machine, without rubber tires and a track system, is a lot of wear going on when it's doing that. All right. Also in this year's budget, we budgeted for solid non-air or non-pneumatic tires for an old rubber tired loader that we've had for many, many years. It is getting close to end of life, but we're not putting a lot of hours on it, so we're still utilizing the machine. Obviously, the solid wheels allow us to get into the metal piles and, well, it's a landfill. It's not a good place for air-filled tires. Let's just face it. So just by that happening in January, we have the ability now to leave the rubber tired loader down at the bottom of the cells where the big asphalt piles are and the gravel piles, and we can leave it there. And then when it's required, we can load trucks and leave the crawler up on the working face of the landfill, what's happening right now. And we're seeing already a bit of a reduced amount of hours on the crawler because we're using another piece of machinery down the bottom. We'll go to page 4 if you're following along. So based on the current annual hours accumulating on the crawler loader, which we just talked about, and factoring in the compactor's ability to compact the same area in probably a third of the amount of time, we can expect the life cycling of the crawler now, instead of being 5 years, to be easily 10 to 12 years. So remember that 75,000 we're putting away every year, that could be reduced in half or less to get there. The following is some comparisons. I had spoke with the mayor before about our big players in the compaction world, and they are Caterpillar, and they are Bomag, and they are Tana. The prices seem to jockey as the dollar changes. We did realize that the Caterpillar does have a machine that's very close to the weight that we need to do this compaction as before, because we talked different dollars before, your worship, and you can see this is just a little bit different now. They're coming in. So with the research we're finding is the recommended compactor in our view right now is the Tana, and the price is very competitive to the others. Its advantages are it's got one solid full drum, and this is where it's going to get a little important later. So in the front, it has a drum that's approximately 9 feet, almost 3 meters across, and the rear solid drum is 12 feet or 3.5, almost 4 meters, as opposed to every other compactor that has a steel wheel and a steel wheel and then 2 meters of space in the middle. So when you're making a pass, let's say we've got an average working face of 50 meters long by 10 meters wide. So right now with the crawler loader, because these tracks are 22 inches wide and a 2.5 meter space in between, he's going up and down an awful lot of times and slowly moving over. And the rule with Alberta Environment is when you compact material, you have to do it 3 times. Whatever you drive on compacted, at some point you have driven over that 3 times to get your maximum compaction. So that's a big selling feature for the Tana. But this is to give you some ideas and prices. Its maximum compaction you can see is just over 1,000 kg per cubic meter. As we move down to the CAT's 850, Bomag is a good second at 900 kg. So these machines are designed to pound it down, if you will. And our crawler loader right now is doing just about 500 kg. So it's doing half of this. Okay. Today is not about which compactor we're picking. Today is about, here's the situation we're in the landfill. Here's what we know as a fact of weighing loads for a full year. And here's what we're going to have to seriously start thinking about. We'll go to page 5. And this is the working area that I was just talking about. And I just laid it out so it'd make a little more sense. If we've got the crawler loader and it's got to do 10 passes, and then it's got to do that 3 complete times on a small working area of 50 meters by 10, which is pretty standard, that machine's going to do about 1.5 kilometers of travel to complete that. With the machine like the Tana with the large single drum in front and 1 single in the rear, it can do the same thing in about 3.5 passes over, and then go over it 3 times, which is at about 500 meters. So you've just on that one compaction circuit you're doing, you've just taken a kilometer off of the crawler loader, and crawler loaders are metal on metal. They're not designed to be making that kind of miles. That's why we're wearing it out like we have been. So really it's the compactor, especially the Tana, is doing 66% less effort and less work. So that's 66% less wages, less fuel, less wear and tear in the machine. The last crawler that we had just gotten rid of, because we have a new one now from last year, we were averaging about not quite 3 years and doing a complete undercarriage rebuild on it, which is between 40 and 45,000. And that would happen every 3 to 4 years because of the amount of hours we're putting on it. So that's, again, something that we're not going to have an expensive in the operating costs if we're going to go this route. I know that the current loader would see an immediate reduction in the daily hours used because we now have the old rubber tire loader that's down at the bottom doing those tasks for us. We'll still need the crawler loader to push the large loads down and to haul in some material and fill, like the dirt that we cover the landfill with daily. But that would really be it. It would be greatly reduced in the amount of hours. So as mentioned before, instead of cycling every 5 years for replacement of the machine, we're comfortable at a 10 to 12 year before it ever gets the hours on it. And that would be with one undercarriage rebuild in that period of time instead of one every 3 hours. And as mentioned before, sorry, go ahead.
3 years, not 3 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3. Good thing you caught that. We'd be buying them like crazy. Yes, 3 years. As mentioned before, the compaction of the crawler right now is about 500 kgs per cube, and the other machines are between 150 and 1,050, depending on which ones you purchase. So basically, it's 110% increase in compaction because we're doubling it. We're doubling the amount of air. We're tentatively taking a landfill that was at 52 years, and if we do nothing, is 25 years. And now we do this and get a piece of equipment, we're back to that 52 years. That 52 years, Your Worship, is based on a Stantec report that was done about 11, 12 years ago, where they estimated at that point we were at about 62 years. So until we finish our study this fall on the actual life expectancy of the landfill through MPE, we're going to keep going with the numbers that we have, which is from the Stantec report. Other revenue things that we have to look at is if the landfill was going to close 25 years sooner than we expected, then our post-closure costs would have to double every year. So we would have the amount needed to close it sooner. So if we go with this route, we can stay on track with the amount that we're putting away currently instead of increasing it. So let's go to page 6. Our commercial haulers, as they become more popular and spread out in the region, the numbers are obvious that we're taking on more refuse, more waste. And again, in 2020, as you can see there, the total from all our commercial haulers was about $206,000. That's not including any other tipping fees that we bring in, any of the residents. That's just commercial haulers. So if we take the 2020 estimated tonnage and multiply it by what we've budgeted for now at the approved $35 a ton, we can see a revenue from just commercial haulers of approximately $290,000 in the year. And obviously $290,000 a year is a payback on a compactor of about 3.5 years as a break even. Like I said, the commercial haulers disposed of about 8,300 tons, not including what the portion of the county of Minburn from 36 West is contributing and what the town residents are contributing. So it's like ×2. It's a lot of material going in. So if we go to town revenues and reserves, the profit realized in landfill operations in 2020 was approximately $250,000. 2021 landfill profits is estimated to be $330,000 using a historical tonnage that we actually have weighed out for 2020 and the new landfill rate. Different ways to approach this after good conversation with Paul Casey. We do have an equipment reserve, which is what the reserve is for and why we put money away. It is actually sitting at about $1,063,000. And then we also mentioned the landfill operations transfer of the $75,700 is annually going into reserves for the next crawler loader. That could be left the same, or it could be reduced again, because we're going to go 10 to 12 years on this crawler and not the 5 we had anticipated. The compactor does qualify for MSI, just to give some options. A debenture is also an option. There's different ways to look at it. I know Paul has his opinion on what we should be doing, and it does make sense. He's strongly favoring the equipment reserve because that's just what it's for. That's what we put it away for. And then you're not putting any more burden on the taxpayer to hold a reserve and still go to debenture something or borrow something. So I agree with what he has to say.
Dale?
Yes, sir.
One piece of information that you're missing here is the life expectancy of that crawler, of the compactor. Sorry, you've added the life to the other cat, but what are other landfills seeing as far as life expectancy of these compactors?
Based on the hours that we're going to be putting on this machine and talking to actual landfills that run specific equipment, not just always the salesman, obviously, they're respectively banking on 10 to 12 years on this piece of equipment. It is what it's built for. It's not trying to do something else. This is what it does. It compacts and it goes back and forth and it pushes. And I should have had that in there because I did have it in my other documents, but it was not part of this. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. First of all, I want to thank you and Tony and your department for getting this information for us. I know that we talked about this, council, at budget, and I told you we were going to bring it back up. And I want you to know that it's not a wish list by Dale's department or by any means. It's just part of good governance, and I've asked them to do this. And I've asked them, Paul's department, to put the numbers together for us. And I'll guarantee you the numbers that they're saying are not inflated or deflated in any way. So I will now take questions for Dale, for admin, for myself, about what your guys' thoughts are. Okay, Councilor Rudick, you were first.
So as the current chair of the Solid Waste Solutions Committee, we haven't talked about this particular option, and I know that we have talked about it on council. So I guess my concern is that there are things that we need to do to continue running the landfill in the most efficient, cost-effective manner. My concern is that this is continuing the same way that we've always done things, and that, to my mind, is a concern. When we're talking about solid waste solutions for the future, there are many instances of very successful waste diversion methods that are not only taking what's going in and minimizing the amount of impact to the actual size and the longevity of the landfill, but it's actually changing the amount that's going in. So $1 million and change for a piece of equipment, you're right, in the current state is not a wish list. My concern is there not a way for us to be able to take what's actually coming in and diverting it and using it for some other end, whether it's using the shredder that was proposed or using it for pyrolysis. There's a lot of different methods that are actually taking waste and generating both fuel and energy, something that's usable. we're talking about profit from a landfill. Those are things that we would never associate landfill and profit in the past. So I'm concerned that this is going down the same path that we always have, taking what we don't want, putting it in the landfill, squishing it down, putting more. I would be more interested in finding a way if we can try to divert the waste. And my concern also would be is it's premature without the landfill study for the fall to make a decision like that right now.
Okay, well, I appreciate your thoughts, and I know that you're on the solid waste committee. I don't know if we've ever even had a meeting of that, but myself personally, I've looked at a lot of different issues, and I've been to some seminars on other ways to run landfills. The changes that we're bringing forth with our landfill is going to be more revenue generated, but I don't think we could ever get to the point where we could offset the cost of some of these fringe ideas that they're proposing today at the scale that we process. And as far as the shredder goes, I know Dale and his department and Tony have looked at it, renting a shredder for putting large pieces off to the side, having a company come in and shred those. That'll be in a report later. But I just wanted for us to make some decisions. I said we bring this up after our budget meeting. So this is where we're at. And there is other things out there that could work. They're a lot more money, but they do work in some capacity. But I don't know at what scale we'd have to be on to make it work. Councillor Barry, you were next.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I certainly can understand Councillor Riddick's concerns, because I do have those to some extent, except that I know that it's not a simple solution to go the other direction. I appreciate Dale's work in putting this together. It's nice to see a really good presentation with a lot of detail to it. And I fully understand the need to get back to having a longer life of the facility. To try and redirect, unfortunately, requires a lot of sorting. And you can't do pyrolysis unless you're also doing shredding, because you can't just take the bulk stuff and put it into one of those things and convert it to gases and electricity and such. It's a very complex situation. I think it requires an awful lot more investigation before we can really get to that direction. Where we're at right now is we know that we've got an awful lot of material coming into the landfill, and we can't do a decent job of compacting it. I'd love to see a shredder there so that would increase the compaction as well. But I think we'd still have to be doing a lot of sorting. So at the moment, I think that this would be an appropriate move to look at getting the materials compacted, not wearing out a single machine. The only thing that I'm wanting to ask a question on is when we talk about reserves, if we deplete the reserve now, then we will have to continue to build it back. And we would have to have 3 portions of that reserve, because we would have 3 pieces of equipment out there. We'd have to have a reserve for the crawler, a reserve for the compactor, and a reserve for the vehicle that has the hard rubber wheels now. So how would that, how would those 3 types of reserves add up compared to the 75,000 that we're talking? Because I don't think it would be a straight savings there. But I'm actually, just because I'll conclude right now, I'm actually in favor of moving forward and trying to get in a compactor out there. Thank you.
Councillor Barry, we've already taken care of that as a council. The replacement of the wheel loader will be a natural that moves from Public Works to out there after it miles out on its regular job on the snow removal and everyday working of the town. We increased the tonnage charge, and it was 80,000 more a year that we are bringing in this year based on the same numbers as last year. So over 12 years, that $80,000 would pretty much pay for the new compactor. When we take and spread the life of the crawler loader, double it, and I'm just going double, not some of the other projections we got here, that 75,000 now becomes 35,000 a year. So we actually have the means And I'm not saying that by raising the 80,000 that we did basically to the tonnage charge is going to cover all of it, because we're going to have extra labor involved. And when the final plan for the landfill comes out, we are going to be doing more. We're going to gain more revenue by the way that we are going to be now sorting at when they first come in, and we'll be taking it up to the face ourselves. But by our last budget, the increases we've made, we took care of the business of affording this already. And I'm sure that over the next few years, the tonnage price will keep going up little by little to cover the increased cost till we get somewhere closer to what other municipalities charge by the ton. Okay. Who else would like to make a comment? Go ahead, Councillor Lemko.
First of all, good job on that report, Dale. It sure shed some light on the situation as it is today, and what the potential is should we move forward with this compactor. No, I don't disagree with Tanine. I think it's very important that we look at the future. But the reality is of what's happening in front of us today is that our life expectancy is dropping if we don't do something soon with a compactor to manage the challenges we are with the amount of material coming in now. I do believe that the report that's coming out this fall will have another of implications financially and whatever that means. And like the mayor said, the changes to our tonnage and our the money that we're asking for those people to come in will help us out. I do support moving forward, like Councillor Barry mentioned. So I'm in favor of doing whatever it takes to get that piece of equipment in the field. I did one comment though. You said that the current crawler loader goes clickety down to the bottom. If we add one more piece of equipment, does that mean the operator of that piece of equipment is now doing the clickety down to the bottom to run the new machine?
Yeah, well, there are options to transport him as well. And we've got a 25-year-old AMT Gator that's at the cemetery that he could run around and back and forth. Yeah, there's other options to move him cheaper than clickety clack for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Okay. Other councillors, questions or any input? Go ahead, Councillor Waters.
Yeah, I agree, and thank you for the report. It lays it out really easy to understand, and I appreciate that for sure. We do have to look at the lifespan of our landfill. It is used quite often. It's being used more and more. But our next discussions, we should be focusing a little more on what Councillor Rudick was talking about as other ways of taking care of some of this refuse. And those are for future discussions, but this compactor is for the now. And I know it's seeing it within our bubble right now as to what we know as opposed to what can be, but the what can be is going to have to, it is the future and we have to look after it now. So thank you. I do support this for sure.
Okay, well, if that's all the comments, I'll let everybody know that we'll give about a month for any other research that needs to be done before we have to make a decision on this and how we may want to finance it. I can tell you that I have looked into this quite a bit, and there's not very many landfills anywhere that do not have this piece of equipment. No matter what we move to in the future, this piece of equipment is what landfills use. And we need to, no matter what, we do a lot of recycling. We spend a lot of money on it. We are helping create jobs through some local businesses that take on, that use our facility, and we're trying to be as fair with them as we possibly can. There may be technology ready out there right now that doesn't need subsidies to make it run. None that I know of. Okay. And without this piece of equipment, you cannot operate a landfill the right way today and reach the goals that the Environment Alberta is asking us for compaction. So it's a piece of equipment that is needed, and it makes sense for our municipality. And we've already done the math to pay for it in our last budget. So everybody have a chance to think about it. Do you have any other questions, or you have some other ideas, or something that you want us to look at? We'll have a month before we bring this back so that everybody can feel that they have enough information about making this decision. And maybe if you have questions, to get them to Paul about how the financing may look. Myself personally, I agree that the reserve is there for that. And then we start putting more money into the reserve because we're collecting more. And again, without the report coming in this fall, to wait even longer, another half a year, 3/4 of a year, that's another 2 years off our landfill. So, and again, I do not disagree with looking at other options as they come available and they're successful that will operate without subsidies. I know that Dale and Tony have already looked into bringing a shredder in a couple times a year, and he's going to give us that probably by within a month about where we could be to take some of those large items that aren't going to pack no matter what piece of equipment we have, and shredding those all at once and then bringing them back up to the face. So that's where we're at. And again, this is something that, go ahead, Dale.
Just another note, the delivery time on this pieces of equipment aren't sitting in a showroom where you go pick one up and drive it home tomorrow. It's about a 20-week wait by the time you place the order, just so you know.
Yeah. And that's because not all of them, because of COVID, they're just, that's where these things are in a large demand. So does anybody else have any questions before we leave this? Everybody, and if you don't feel you have enough information, or you have something else to put in, or if there may be other methods that you discover, please bring them to the next couple of ledge meetings or a council meeting. But we will in 1 month be asking council to make this decision. So, okay, thank you very much. Next up, Paul Casey. Oh, you got nothing. Cliff.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Your Worship. The first item I have on the agenda is the organizational chart, and I have updated it. The main change, the only change that I made was on page 2, and that was updating it to the communication and marketing manager position. It was formerly the communication coordinator position. So I just needed to update the org chart. If you have any questions on it, I don't like sending in just one page, one piece of the org chart. The whole chart should be there for your review. Okay.
Anybody have any questions on this? Councilor Rudick.
Thank you, Cliff, for preparing this. I'm just wondering, in our policy, if you can remind me if there is a difference between the definition of a coordinator or a manager, because a lot of times on this org chart in particular, they're showing, and I guess this is difficult always when you're putting it in a flat, it should actually be maybe a 3D representation, but for this purposes, it looks, for all intents and purposes, that they're equitable positions. And I'm just wondering if there's a different definition, because they certainly aren't compensated the same way. So I'm just curious.
The definitions are laid out in the actual individual job description. And as an example, I'll use the communication one. It's the one that's in the forefront. When we designed the position in 2016, initially, we created it as the communication coordinator. And then with discussions with council over the past couple months, it was requested to change the position to communication and marketing and upgrade it to manager. So it's in the actual job description that It is where the difference is, and on the salary grid. That answer your question, Councillor Rudick? Okay.
Okay, everybody's had a chance to look at it. That's the only change that we have right there right now. Cliff, is that job posted now?
Yes, it is. And I'll have an update in my report.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, was anybody else? I'm sorry, I put my head down there for a minute. Anybody else have their hand up? Okay. Next is the deputy mayor appointment.
Just for your information, the deputy mayor cycle for change is coming up. So effective on February 23rd. Now this will go to the town council meeting next week. Our deputy mayor will be Councillor Wawawa until June 21st.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Next we have the temporary bylaw for mandatory masking.
Right, and this is before you today because when we prepared this in November, we put effective date is that the bylaw comes into force on November 30th, 2020, and will remain in force until 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on February 28, 2021. So is it council? I need some direction from council on what to do. If we do nothing, the bylaw is completed on midnight on February 28th. If council would like to have it extended, then I would prepare an amended bylaw to revise the effective date.
You know, I don't think we're gonna not extend it, but the length, Councillor Barry.
I'm not certain that there's any real need to extend it. If the provincial mandatory mask province-wide is still in place, I don't think that they're going to remove that until it's such time that they feel that it should be removed. We put ours in place because the provincial government was being a bit slow in acting. But if the decision is to extend it, then I think we'll have to make an amendment to it as well on the age of the exceptions so that it is consistent with the provincial under 2 instead of under 5. So, I mean, that would be the only other thing, but I'm not certain why we would extend our bylaw when we currently have a provincial mandated mask regulation right now, or provision right now. It's not really a regulation, but as a provision, they're really the ones that should be overseeing this, not us. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll just go back to why we brought it in the first place, because we've seen elected body, mostly the provincial government, that was not willing to take it on. Is there any other thoughts out there about extending it, letting it expire? Okay, Councillor Warwell was first, and then Councillor Rudick.
Okay, so obviously, I don't think this is going to be a surprise. I do concur with Councillor Barry. Again, this isn't about whether we should or shouldn't have a bylaw. It's because all along we advocated that the province is the one that should be making the regulation. That was one of the reasons. Otherwise, we could have had a mask bylaw way back in summer, like some other municipalities did. And we kept putting it off for the simple fact that our words were, the province needs to do something. Now, I agree we ended up making a step because the province didn't seem like they were prepared to take that step, but given that they have, I personally will support an extension when I think it's under provincial.
Okay, Councillor Rudick, you're next.
Sorry, I just have a question for Councillor Warwa. Did you say you support an extension or not?
I'm not supporting extension because it's covered under the province.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. I just wasn't sure. I guess the challenge here is that when we put this bylaw in place, it was because the province wasn't making a decision that we felt was important for our community. At this point, there continues to be great confusion in the community. I just spoke to somebody again the other day about their belief that the town has put this bylaw in place, which is why they must wear masks. And I've seen a few people, again, brazenly trying to engage in combat, is what I'm going to say, so that they would have people engage with them. And that won't stop this behavior. This bylaw won't stop people from trying to pick a fight, which is what they were trying to do by not wearing a mask in public spaces. That said, I'm curious what administration would say our options are here. If we let this bylaw expire on the 28th, is there a point where, for example, previously we were able to bring forward that discussion, we put the bylaw in, it takes some time. Is there an intermediary suggestion? So the province decides that we're going to continue with mask provision provincially, and then at some point, if we disagreed with their future decision, we could bring it back again. I'm just curious what the administration take on this would be.
Okay. Well, as you know, the history on this is we brought this bylaw in effective November 30th. The provincial provision came into effect on December 8th. But we had no idea at the point on November 30th or when or November 25th, when the bylaw was actually passed, that the province was going to bring any provisions in at that point. To answer your question, Councillor Rudick, my thought is that now that the province has stepped in, their provisions and enhancements take precedent over anything a municipality would do anyway. So I'm quite happy just to let it be. I brought it forward because it is coming up to its expiration date, and I just wanted council to review this. So,
Councillor Waters.
Yeah, I'd be okay with letting it expire as the province has mandated the mask bylaw themselves. But the thing that I found confusing, and a few people did call me on it, was on the municipal scoop. They're thinking February 28th, our bylaw is done, they no longer need to wear their masks. So I'm thinking if we do let this expire, we do need to make it known you still have to wear them as per the provincial regulations. And it's not our rule, it is the rule right now. And that's kind of what we have to follow. So I'm okay with letting it expire because the province has stepped up.
Well, okay, well, I see no other hands in the air. I will let you know that I think that, oh, go ahead, Councillor Berry.
I would suggest that we change our signs at both ends of the town to stop saying that we have a mandatory mask bylaw and state that mask wearing is mandatory by provincial. And then maybe people, even at least on that, will stop seeing that we're promoting our bylaw when the provincial actually takes precedent over it. We probably should have taken that down a long time ago in hindsight and said that, you know, under provincial, there is a mandatory mask regulation. Just as a thought to try and clear the air a little bit. I mean, I've tried it even on Talk of the Town. I started it out by trying to clarify that the provincial mandatory mask takes precedence over the bylaw. But we do need to clear the air on that. And by having a bylaw that actually isn't enforced because of provincial, we're just muddying the waters.
Okay, well, if no one else, I'll give you my comments. Anybody that doesn't know that there's a provincial bylaw and blames it on us is muddying the waters to fit their own argument. Everybody knows that it's a provincial bylaw. We did it, and it wasn't easy to do because we felt that the province wasn't stepping up to look after the citizens of our community the way we thought it should be with the numbers climbing. We can rescind it at any time. If the province takes theirs down and we don't have one, we will have to go through the same process that we already did and get the community, which supported the bylaw. The majority of our community supported our bylaw. Thought the province should have done something. I'll just keep talking here for a second, if you don't mind, Councillor Berry. I just feel it's easier just to extend it in smaller portions until we feel comfortable. I'm not waiting for Jason Kenney to make the right decisions for people that walk in and out of my shop or where my family goes to shop. I feel that up till now that they were dragging their feet, and I'm not waiting for them to make decisions for the citizens of Vegreville on this. So that's my decision. I have no problem extending it. And if it's not needed, then it's not needed. That's fine. We could just, but to go through this process again, if we get let down by the government of Alberta and not doing what we feel is right for our community. That's my thoughts. So
I appreciate your comments, Your Worship, and I'll respect your position on it. However, not one of us on this council is a health expert. Not one of us should be making a health decision. That has to be done through the province. It has to be Henshaw that makes that through Jason Kennedy. If the provincial government removes theirs, I don't see why we should be health experts to say we keep it. I think that is a discussion that would have to be a little bit broader, but I think our mandate is to listen to what the province has given us. We should not try and pretend that we're health experts. Thank you.
And we should not pretend that Dr. Dina Hinshaw's, all of her advice to the province is taken. Because I would imagine quite a while ago, she would have made a lot different decisions. She would have, if she was the one in charge, she may give her opinion to the province, but I doubt if it always comes out. But so we have it now. We're going to instruct admin to, okay, I'll give Councillor Riddick one more time. Any other councillor that hasn't chimed in, you feel free. But Councillor Riddick?
So I'll just go back to my question towards Mr. Craig. So our options here are allow it to expire. We could extend the deadline and remove the complications that the mayor just highlighted with trying to meet the guidelines, or we could revive it, this bylaw expires and revive it at some future point. Which would be the easiest from your point of view for administration? Divorcing the idea of whether we're health experts or not, but making sure that we're protecting our community, because ultimately, I think that's where we made our decision before. So can I just ask administration, the three options, which is the least cumbersome?
The extension or to revive the bylaw again is not an issue. Of course, the easiest is let it be. And just let it expire. However, it's not difficult to, if council wants to extend it, if they are looking at keeping a bylaw in effect, I would say go with the extension. Otherwise, then we would have to reintroduce the mass bylaw in its entirety if this expires.
Councillor Broadjack, you had your hand up.
Very similar to Councillor Rudick's questioning, except that I would like to know not what the ease would be, but what the cost implications would be should we let it expire, the bylaw expire, and then potentially have to renew it again, renew a new bylaw again. What would the cost implications be?
We already have the bylaw drafted. It would be council's time to have the 3 readings to make the bylaw effective.
Okay, there would be no advertising and no special meeting, no costs that way?
No.
Okay.
There would be a cost politically that you'd have to bear. I mean, admin doesn't get a lot of calls about how they voted and where your priorities lie with the health of our community. They do not get the calls about the, I don't know. I'd rather not say that. Okay. Anyway, Councillor Lemko.
Your Worship, I'm of the mindset that we extend the RMS bylaw, put an extension in. You can always cancel it after, but I'm not one to put my faith in the provincial government's decision of what the restrictions are. And so I think for the protection of our community and the citizens within our community, I'd like to see the extension at this point.
So Cliff, you'll need to know by Monday, or you'll need to know on Monday because we're going to have a vote on Monday.
Do you have a suggestion for a time period so I can have the bylaw prepared?
Okay, Councillor Barry, then Councillor Rudy.
Just make sure that the amendment on the age is included in there, because we don't want to pass one that's in conflict with the provincial.
Okay, Councillor Rudy.
So if this is coming back to our council meeting on Monday, could I make a suggestion that this goes to the end of the school year? So I'll recommend the extension of this bylaw till June 30th. And then we could make another decision at that time. But I do agree with the mayor and Councillor Lemko that while I do think that the province should have made this decision, they've let us down repeatedly. And ultimately, we have the opportunity here to be able to easily, painlessly extend this existing bylaw, whereas reviving the process would be more timely. So my proposal is to the end of the school year, June 30th.
We can rescind this bylaw any day we like, correct? So right now there's, I don't know, probably twice a week, I get letters from concerned citizens about some conspiracy theories that are floating around. And again, I just got to let everybody know that we made this decision. Well, it wasn't easy. We felt, the majority of council felt it was the right decision at the time. And there was one that didn't support it, but she voted for unanimous consent to let the bylaw pass. And at the time, it wasn't easy for us to get in and get this going. We can repeal it anytime we want, rescind it anytime we want. Right now, the provincial one does take precedent over what we have. And that's just the way life is. But we don't know when they may just decide, well, the numbers are good enough for us today, we're going to take it off. And we don't know what the numbers would be here at that day. So I think we have it now. We've gone through the exercise, and thank God they did step up, and the whole province is mandatory. And if they remove theirs, let's have the conversation then. That's Councillor Warwick.
Well, I do have one more thing to add. It's a little bit contradictory to that. I am going to push back on a statement that you made, Mayor. You talked about the outreach that you had. Well, I want to assure you that after I made the vote the way I did, I had a ton of outreach too. So I didn't have a bunch of people saying, why did you do it? I had a bunch of people saying, thank you for standing up for the words that you did. So we can go ahead and push this through again. I'll stay exactly where I'm at, but I can tell you one thing, I have nothing to feel bad about my decision, because I had a lot of support from people on it.
I wasn't trying to make you feel bad in any way. I appreciate it that you did vote in favor of pushing it through that night. We didn't have to wait to have another reading. That's what I said. So, and again, everybody's allowed to vote any way they want, how they feel that they are looking out for the best interests of our community, and that's what they will do. Councillor Barry.
I'm not going to let Tina sit there and believe that she's been signaled out, because she and I voted exactly the same way on both decisions there. So she wasn't alone.
And I know that. And I've never said anything different. So all I'm saying is that it's there in place right now. And if Monday, if you two want to vote against extending it, that'll be fine. I mean, you're doing what you're allowed to do. Doesn't mean that we're wrong and you're right and we're wrong. That doesn't mean nothing like that. It means that we are a functioning council making decisions for the best that we can for our community. That's what that means. So if we bring it in, those that are thinking about not rescinding it, but extending it, would the end of the school year be appropriate for the rest of us? Councillor Lemko, yes. Councillor Waters, yes. Councillor Broadjack. So that's what it would be, Cliff. Then if in favor is the vote is to extend it, then that's where it would be. And given the option that we could rescind it any day we like. Okay, thank you. Okay, who's gonna do the next one?
Well, I get the fun one here, so I will, Your Worship. This is a policy that draft that we've been working on for a few months now. It has not been an easy policy to write up. But for employee fraternization policy, I've laid out the best I can in talking with some colleagues and looking at what other municipalities have, and also contacting some HR professionals in the field as well. So I know in the first draft we had, there was lack of definitions. So I've tried to describe the best I can with the advice that I've been given on what some of the definitions are for, or what some of the actions are that would constitute inappropriate behavior in a workplace to deal with fraternization. So, the policy is there for your review. If you would like time to review it, fine, but I would like to bring this forward on Monday night for council's approval. So.
Councilor Riddick, you want to start this one? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for drafting this. This is uncomfortable to develop, but I think it's a missing gap that we definitely needed to have in our employee manual. I just have two questions. I don't see in here how it does talk about the possibility of reassigning employees, but I actually don't see a way to be able to report or be disciplined, how that works. And maybe that's how the application would be. And the other part is protecting a whistleblower, somebody that might be letting somebody else know that there was fraternization so that they don't actually get penalized or punished or reprimanded in some way, because a lot of times that would be down the path of bullying. And we're coming upon Pink Shirt Day, which is talking about bullying in schools, but one very obvious place is also bullying in the workplace. And we want to make sure that our workplace is safe and open for a lot of different people, including an employee that might want to be reporting an instance that they disagree with, which would be reporting a coworker or a manager that might be fraternizing with another employee. So those are my two questions: whistleblowing and the reporting process.
Okay, I'll answer your second one first. We have addressed the bullying issue in our respect in the workplace policy, which was approved just over a year ago, I believe. As far as the reporting here, I thought that was addressed. Just a minute. I had it more where a manager or a director within the town who engages in a romantic relationship with a member of his or her staff, and that would be staff that report to that position, must report it to the town manager immediately. And then there's a process on what the town manager will do to review the situation. So should a department manager or supervisor begin to date or become romantically involved with and or engage in any fraternization or similar conduct with any town employee, the department manager or supervisor must provide written notification to his or her director. So I've tried to put in what I can. The onus is also on the managers of the departments to be cognizant if there's relationships that have developed within their own departments. Did that answer your question?
I guess the challenge, and this is where the difficulty of not having somebody that's a human resources person that's outside of this, I just see that there is a potential challenge to be able to follow this through. So for employees to willfully share that information, or if somebody afterwards was found out to have already known about this information, I'm just concerned that we be very clear as we possibly can in a situation that is difficult at best and potentially contentious. And for that reason too, that's why I brought up the whistleblowing, so that there's a way to be able to protect people that would be bringing forward information about a coworker or somebody else that works in the organization. So just a point of concern. I don't know that you necessarily can answer that. It's just a challenge because we don't have somebody that's outside of any chain of command that could be able to field that.
Right.
So I'll go ahead, Tita. Councillor Wauer, you wanted to?
I just have a question, Cliff. I'm just wondering, under any of our other policies, I was just looking here when it talks about some of the items that you're not to engage in. I'm just wondering if it's covered off in other policies. So one of the things that says is personal texting, emails, and telephone calls. And my only reason I bring that is, while I agree they shouldn't be doing that, but in fairness, if we're saying you shouldn't be doing that just because it's somebody that you might have as a coworker, well, you shouldn't be doing that at any time then during work. I don't think the fact that they're, possibly a coworker. So I guess I'm wondering, is that covered off somewhere else? Because for us to say you can't personally text them, but somebody else could be personally texting spouse, like I'm wondering how that would work.
It was, of course, texting is even part of our business here, as well as emails and phone calls. What we were looking at addressing there was more continual texting where it could interrupt the workplace. Like I said, I had put in examples of inappropriate behavior. And like I said, it was a very difficult policy to try and draft. So those are examples. I'm not concerned unless it's a text every 2 minutes to each other, then that has to be addressed, type of thing. Okay.
So the obvious to me, they must not engage in any inappropriate behaviors that include but are not limited to. Should we not put sexual acts in there? I know at the White House, Clinton was asked, did he ever have a sexual act with an employee? He said no, but I mean, I don't know what your definition is. Not all sexual acts have kissing, prolonged, hugging, hand-holding in them. Maybe we should just put that right in there, so there's no gray area.
Okay, I do have in the paragraph above, this policy applies to all our employees regardless of gender or sexual orientation. For the purposes of this policy, dating includes consensual romantic relationships, including sexual relations. All employees should also be aware that the town maintains a strict policy against unlawful harassment of any kind, so, etc.
Not all sex is relations. Some are as a sex act. You don't have to be in a relation. So I don't know. I would just put that right in there with a list of things that you cannot do. Sexual activity. But that's pretty plain, but at least there's no gray area. Okay. Anybody else have anything else on this policy they want to talk about?
I might suggest, if we're looking for future candidates for the upcoming municipal election, this would be a great meeting to share, because we've covered a wide range of topics with a wide range of contentious issues, just indicating the possibilities that municipal government provides all kinds of depth of conversation.
Okay. Councillor Berry.
I could see having plain language in there so that it can't be a gray area that can be misinterpreted. The whistleblower is an interesting one that Councillor Riddick brings up. That would almost have to be somewhere in policy. I think that covers everything. Is there any other area of policy other than this one that, regardless of what, if an employee brings forward information, that there is some protection to that individual for having brought forward that information?
Not a specific whistleblower policy as per se. Like I said, in our respect in the workplace policy, where it kind of sidesteps the whistleblower policy. That would be a separate policy on its own. And I could research that and bring that forward if just so that it would tie the loop here then too. So, yeah, but we don't have anything specifically related for whistleblowers.
Okay. So
other than the one phrase to add in, were there any other changes?
No, I think that it'll be pretty apparent the direction we're going.
Okay, so I will, this will come down to, or be part of the council meeting then on Monday night.
Sure.
Okay.
And could we just show too, in the policy, in the overall policy about the whistleblower situation?
Would you like a draft whistleblower policy for Monday?
If you could just show us where it is on, and if it's contained in the employee thing.
No, that's what I said. It isn't. I'll give copies of the respect in the workplace policy out to council after the meeting.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Is that okay, Councilor Riddick?
Actually, they're on your, the policy should be on your P drive, but we'll make sure you get a copy sent out.
I was just going to suggest, there was a presentation a number of years ago at the hospital, to the hospital board, talking about whistleblower policy. And I believe there is a provincial blanket protection for public employees. This is a number of years ago. I'll try to find that and I'll forward that to you, Cliff, as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up are my items. And Cliff, if you'll just give us an overall review of what the Alberta Justice Solicitor General was looking for and what the response that you gave him was on the request.
Sure. There was, you can see the letter in your agenda package. A number of the items that the minister's department or the minister was requesting was not necessarily applicable to Vegreville. So when I did contact the representative from the, what was his name? Alberta Provincial Police Service Transition Secretariat. And I had a conversation with him, and he said if we could forward our quarterly invoices from the RCMP to the province, they would extract the information they need for this PricewaterhouseCoopers study. So I did that, then they can work with the information, and he was pleased to receive those and has not requested anything since. So we had I had all those saved and scanned in from a few years back, actually, to cover the time period he was looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And the next one is the reply that I got from Alberta Justice and the Solicitor General regarding a letter I put forth to them about the fact that we're seeing repeat offenders being caught over and over again, only to be released again when their charges are getting more serious, and looking at weapons charges now with almost every arrest. And basically, the correspondent said basically it's a federal issue, it's not a provincial issue. Didn't make a lot of sense to me. I know that they have to offer bail. They have to see how seriously the charges are and what the record looks like. But the fact that they, as the province themselves, can remand somebody for up to 2 years based on, without having the federal courts or the federal system step in. But Councillor Wawa is going to give us a little bit of information And she's going to help me out a little bit here getting a response back to them. So go ahead, Councillor Warwa.
Yeah, I will definitely get some to you. I just kind of want to make a couple comments, having really gone through the letter and gone through the original ask letter. I think that it's fair that as advocates, we have to say when we're not happy with how something comes back. I can't say that I'm happy with the reply that came back. I thought the letter that was written was a very good letter. The letter that was written identified a problem that we're having, and it asked specifically, it's not suggesting that the province could fix everything. What it asked specifically was to work together to figure out some possible solutions. I'm afraid that my opinion of the letter that came back was that currently it seems like our Justice Minister is as out of touch with what is happening in our rural communities as they were when we were dealing with them under municipal affairs and we saw an urban rural problem. What I would have liked to have seen back, and I will definitely get some more stuff to you, I just wanted to let you know I had asked for some research just on a few items that I wanted to check, but I am disappointed that you didn't come back under a number of different items. So first of all, I would have liked him to talk to us about what, if any, regulations we would have under the Municipal Government Act. Section 74 of the MGA does talk about a community's ability to set some of their own regulations and bylaws when it comes to firearms. I would have liked to have known from him specifically whether or not that would be something that could be extended to talk about some of the possession of identified individuals that maybe are either on parole or awaiting terms. I would just like to know that answer. I know that today it is a federal announcement, but they were talking about a federal act that would extend the ability for municipalities to restrict certain types of firearms. But they did point right off the bat that it is under the Firearms Act as well, that there is some additional abilities. So when I talk about those, one, I would like him to be able to explain if we have any ability under 74 of the MGA to possibly look at some legislation. The second thing that I'd like to talk to him about is the fact that under the Federal Firearms Act, it does talk about the ability to seek to have prohibited prohibition order on certain individuals for having firearms. So if you look right under that act, and I actually have it pulled up, that's why, you know, as I'm glancing to the side because I wanted to have it ready. One of the things that it specifically talks about, it says a provincial court judge shall have regard to whether a person is within the 5 years to look at doing with these extended orders. Now, I'm not saying these are the answers, but we asked to work together on solutions, and what we got was a schooling as far as what they couldn't do. So not thrilled, and I will try and get as much information as I can back. I'm again not suggesting that they could fix everything, but I would want to know some of the questions that I wrote down to them. We're not suggesting that they're allowed to deny bail. I don't think in any part of, I reread our thing about 30 times to try and find the section that might have alluded to us suggesting they should start trying to not follow legislation. But they can speak to us about which parts are provincial, which parts are federal, about how quickly, as we see a backlog and a lot of things backlog provincially in the courts, it is interesting that we're able to get ahead and make bail decisions that quickly. And I just think there's a lot of areas he could adjust. So I won't ramble on more. I am getting you a little bit more information, Mayor, and then maybe we can go back and forth. But I mean, we asked to work together on a solution, not to be sent legislation federally.
Yeah, and our reply letter to this letter will be more of, well, if these tools are there, why are they not being used? And there's another thing in here that I was looking at is the community impact statement program. Now, for the habitual criminals in our town that are being charged usually once a month, and they're taking from their neighbors, and they're having handguns, and they're selling drugs, I think, Phil, that we need to talk with the RCMP, and when they are going to court to see for bail, I would like to see us put a community impact statement together about how these career criminals within our community are making an impact in our community, and the gun charges, and just where we are as residents of our community and how that makes us feel. And I'd like to see it go with every arrest so that the judges know that we as a community are not supporting their decisions to release them, and we're not very comfortable having people high on meth with loaded firearms within our community. And I think that should be a standard piece of documentation that goes with every arrest when there's weapon charges within our community. And I think that we should work with the RCMP on that matter, because it is an avenue that we've never done. And I didn't even know that it was there. I knew there were impact statements from victims, but I didn't know their overall community has a place within the judicial system to bring this up. Go ahead, Councillor Rudick.
I appreciate Councillor Warwa getting some more information. I was just trying to find an article that was just in the paper about Ponoka, their response to a crime that happened locally, a local murder, and the reporting that they had between the mayor, I think you know Mayor Bonnet from Ponoka, and the relationship that they have with their local RCMP. And it talked about a lot of the issues that we've been discussing about the challenges of applying the Mental Health Act and their proximity, for example, to the Ponoka facility, and the challenges that they face, particularly given the restrictions that they've had with bail, victim impact statements, as well as releasing people during COVID, because there is no place to house them, and the actual impacts about how the Solicitor General is approaching any of the trials even. So the impacts that are happening, I think, are exactly what you had highlighted in your original letter, and talking about ways that we could be able to facilitate and be able to manage community safety in an effective way. So I think that might be helpful. I'll take a look for that letter as well, because this isn't just a Vegreville issue, and it's very concerning to me that this letter was just a blanket send reply is what it looks like to me as well. Very disrespectful.
Councillor Warwa.
Sorry, yeah, just one more part to that, actually. It's just in reference to what you just said, Mayor, is that, like, I just am finding it very disheartening to get a basically it's not our problem letter, while they also highlight within there things like that impact statement that is there. So you're gonna have to pick and choose at some point, get a lane, because you can't say it's not us, but yet this is what we're doing. So, I mean, we're asking them to work together on it. They're gonna need to work together on it. So, yeah, just disappointed, I guess.
Well, it was never fun taking children to the dentist, but I got them there. So I think that if we were willing to work with them and show them what their responsibility is and how they could be an asset to the problem that we're having within our community, and who knows, maybe if we get someplace with this, maybe it'll benefit some other communities. But we will no longer sit idly by if there's methods that we can be engaging in to make our community safer, and working with the RCMP and with the Justice Department, if that's what it takes. So I look forward to sitting down with you, Councillor Warwa, and admin, and we're going to draft a new letter back to them. And Phil, we're going to engage with the RCMP on these community impact statement letters that are going to go before every judge. And we're going to stay on top of this the best we can. That's all we have. Because the what's in place today doesn't work. So we can just stand by and do nothing, or we can get more engaged. So decision made. Okay. Thank you. Next up is round table. What's everybody been hearing around town? And I'm going to start with the bottom this time. On my screen, I don't know how your guys look, but Councillor Brodziak, you are on the bottom corner. You are Marcia on my screen.
Okay, just one item I noticed on just perusing through Facebook this past weekend. There was a few posts on concern over the town of Vegreville's water billing and how many extra charges are put on there with the assumption that those are administration charges. And Council did put those extra charges there for a purpose, and I'd like to see a lot more communication to our residents why these decisions were made, why we are increasing the charges for the various fees that we do charge, and not just the water charge. Because the one comment was, oh, I only pay $9.75 for my actual water usage, but I pay, you know, $35. And they're assuming they're administration charges, and they are not administration charges. So if we can set up some kind of communication in our monthly newsletter, maybe even put an ad in the paper to say why why council decided to impose these charges and what we're doing with these charges. Because we did decide that infrastructure is not cheap and it's a replacement. We do need to pay more than just our cost of the water. That's the cost of doing business for the town of Vegreville and for water provision. So I'd like to see more communication.
An item for the talk of the town that you'd like to take on.
Could be, yes. And that's all I heard this past. And again, I want to send out congratulations and kudos to the world's longest hockey game that ended yesterday morning. They raised a record-breaking $1.8 million, and they broke all kinds of records. So playing in the coldest polar vortex that there was in all these 7 games. So kudos to them for doing that.
How are things at work?
Things at work are good. The restrictions at Homestead Lodge, we had been under we had a COVID outbreak status that has since been lifted. The concern now is, of course, with the vaccine. I think about a month ago, Premier Kenny stated that all the long-term care facilities had been, the residents had been vaccinated. And that was a misconception because we are not a long-term care facility. We're a congregate seniors lodge. And there's been no indication as far as when the vaccines will occur. And it is very much a concern at the lodge. It's congregate living. Everybody's scared. I mean, there's been, of course, one. So the concern is there. I think we need to advocate to our MLA how important it is to get the seniors living in congregate living. They should be a priority for sure to receive the vaccine.
Well, I think maybe we should put that on for Monday's agenda. If we're gonna make a recommendation regarding vaccines at all, as a municipality, we should have a direction that we want to go, so.
Yeah.
But are the residents still have to stay in their room there? Are they allowed out?
No, they're not in their rooms. They're allowed to, the regulations as per the CMOH order are that they can be in the common areas. However, they have to wear masks anytime that they're in the common areas. They are free to go out for essential outings, which include, and I mean, that's a gray area. An essential outing could be going to visit your family for mental health reasons. So that could be deemed as an essential outing. We are allowing visitors to come in, 2 designated visitors. Again, that's as per the CMOH order. And there's a designated room to visit. So I would say, you know what, the mental health aspect the residents have been hit very hard with that. And again, all members of our population, the kids going to school, everybody's been hit hard with this.
Well, it was so long that they were on the COVID watch. They had to be staying in their rooms. That was terrible. Now that they can even go outside or go uptown to grab some socks or something they needed, that's awesome. So
yeah, so
good.
No, it's good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Waters.
Okay, thank you. Not too much for me. A lot of the concerns I was going to bring up have been addressed in our conversation about the masking. So that was good. Thank you. And just one other, of course, it's going to be relating to some snow. And we had some wind blowy days there, cold wind blowy days. And the road from Walmart that comes out onto 16A, just wondering whose responsibility is that to keep clean? Is that ours or is that Department of Highways? Because the snow was drifting up in the one corner onto the highway and it was pretty slick there. So just curious as to whose responsibility that is.
Let's go to infrastructure planning and Dale.
Yeah, 67th Street itself is the town of Vegreville's responsibility, and then adjoined to it, Highway 16A is transportation's responsibility. So we kind of share that.
Okay, so kind of a tricky one right on the corner then, but it is cleaned off now, so that's good. Other than that, not a lot for me today.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rudick?
I think the cold weather brought out a lot of free time for people. So I had a number of different questions this week. First off, I had somebody ask if we were interested in applying for Hockeyville. Vegreville should apply. Sorry. And I said I wasn't certain that we had applied recently, but that was something that this individual felt that we should apply for as the town. And I'm not certain that that really is necessarily our purview or if that's a volunteer group that would apply, but definitely something of interest. Thank you from the physician's office to the Health Professionals Attraction Retention Committee for lunch on Friday. The next, the 3 Fridays, last Friday and the next 2 upcoming, there will be lunch provided to the physician working at the family clinic. So they wanted to extend a thank you back to the community group that provided lunch through the Health Professionals Attraction Retention Committee. A comment that the YouTube channel is very convenient, and when we move into our new digs, to please keep broadcasting our council meetings, that they're so interesting that people are going back and watching them afterwards. I said, I'm glad that you're able to enjoy watching them. So just a comment that I hadn't heard again, that people are enjoying the ability to be able to go back and watch it when they're available, not just when we're available. So we have been able to increase our transparency by having people attend our meetings virtually. So that's been a good byproduct of having these new restrictions. And then the last question I had was about ambulance services. Because of the increased attention about Wood Buffalo, as well as some of the other cities like Lethbridge, et cetera, having some issues with EHS ambulance transfer and dispatching. The question was asked whether or not we have this concern locally. I have not heard that, and I'm not certain that we've heard that locally, but reassured them that the transition to provincial dispatch locally seemed to have gone without any concerns, but that I would bring this question forward in this format. And that's all that I've heard.
Okay. Thank you. There's other municipalities that you talked about run their own, and that's why they don't want to be part of the centralized dispatching. But, is that correct, Phil? Am I correct in saying that?
No, Your Worship. All ambulance dispatch is through AHS Central Dispatch. It's just that there are in some locations increased delays in getting EMS service, and it is now then the municipalities are taking it upon themselves to look after this problem. For us, it's not an issue at all. The fire department does respond to some medical assist calls to assist EMS, or if EMS is not readily available, they'll send out the fire department until the EMS arrives from the nearest location. But at this point, it's not a concern for us.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Barry.
I'm at the top of my screen. Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a lot of anything. I want to just throw out a couple of kudos. So I'd like to thank Anya and Phil and group for putting together our Family Day video. I thought that it came off very nicely and ended with the good little Brady Bunch photo. Also to Dale's department, see an awful lot of our back alleys have been cleaned up and ready for the spring already. It's nice to be able to, the comment about snow drifting, the back alleys were drifting to some extent, so seeing them getting cleared up has been very nice. And final thought is, Councillor Rudick brought up the aspect of us streaming videos and et cetera, and that today's meeting is a good one to emphasize. Yeah, today's meeting is one of the examples of democracy in action, where we can express differences of opinion, but we all work together just the same. And there's never any grudges held in this council. Thank you.
Councillor Lemko.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have not had any complaints or concerns addressed to me regarding the management of the town. From what I can tell is they've been working very hard out there. You can see by minus 40 wind chills while I'm in my house in the warmth, the staff are out moving snow and working in this terrible condition. So kudos to them. Kudos to all the staff. I do have one thing I would like to a kudo out to the Chamber of Commerce for their AGM last Thursday. Virtual, well run, well managed, well done, and the guest speaker, the MP Pierre Poliver, did a very a good presentation on state of the economy and where we are as a country. So it was very informative. I really enjoyed it. Probably one of the most enjoyable Zoom meetings I've been in a long time. That's all I got, boss.
Okay, Councillor Roa, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple. So the first one was just a question. I think it'll go to Dale. I'm just wondering, with the cold weather that we had, I had a couple people ask me if we have a threshold that we set for temperature where we cancel our garbage collection. Is there actually a policy that has a set temperature? And I didn't know the answer.
There is no policy.
Okay. I think it just came to me just based upon how cold and difficult it was the other week, and they were looking at it wondering whether there's times where we would suspend those just in light of protection of equipment. So that was one of the things I was told to ask.
Things like recycling, for example, if we can go an extra few days without picking it up, then we'll leave it until things warm up. But your commercial business needs their garbage picked up daily. That has to happen.
Okay, that's good. The next one that I had was, in regards to, I had a couple of restaurants reach out to me. I think it was because I made a little bit of an off comment on the last council meeting where I said that I wasn't impressed with some of the provincial announcements on opening of restaurants, because I felt like it was putting, again, strain on them to confirm whether or not somebody was from a household. So that touches back a little bit to the exact thing that we're facing even in talking about the opening of the pools. So one of the things I had was an ask for us to consider advocating as a community, on some of these regulations, and the one being the restaurants. Because what I can tell you that I know, as I've reached out to a number and I've seen things that happen, is majority of restaurants out there that I know are not doing anything with it. So they're just saying we'll keep to 6. And that's it. They're not making sure they're from the families and whatnot. Now, I'm not saying this of our Vegreville ones. I'm specifically talking about ones outside of Vegreville, but I did have a conversation with 2 restaurant owners that said that they would like to see us advocate as a town to our MLA and possibly, whichever provincial ministers we want to go to, that we understand the need for regulations. We're not asking for everything to be opened up, but when you say something like 6, stop announcing these regulations that are making it even harder for the already struggling businesses to mandate. So that was one of the things that was brought to me, is that if we're advocating, they would strongly like us to ask for them to just look at the number versus specifically the recommendation on where you're living. So that was the second one. And then the third one was actually, some people had talked to me about vaccines just over. So I just kind of wanted to make a point to Councillor Brodziak's point. I would suggest that if we're going to advocate to the province at all, that we would just ask them. We know that one of their problems right now is they just don't have the vaccines, which is a federal fail. It's not theirs. However, they have to set how their rollout goes. And I guess my recommendation would be that we strongly ask them to follow the NACI recommendations. And according to them, step 1 indicated all persons over 70 and all workers within the congregate living for those people over 70. And I think that would cover off a lot of our facilities. So if we're advocating, I'm thinking that, that's an independent body that made those recommendations federally. And I think it would be good for us to advocate for the same provincially. So maybe I could send everyone those recommendations and we could take a look at them, possibly. And that's all I got.
Thank you. So I've had quite a few calls. I've had one email, and I've talked it over with Phil regarding a user group on the arena, and a few conversations regarding that. Hopefully it's the answers are what the answers are, because that's all we can do right now. I've had a few people tell me about the back alleys and how happy they are, what a good job we did, which was nice. I received a thank you from Mayor Botan from the Ukrainian city of Kolomaya regarding the picture that we sent him, the gift that we sent over there. So our relations are moving along very respectfully with them. And basically, I've had a few calls about people not wearing masks, and I've talked to the owners of the business and what they did. And again, it's just getting to the point where people are just getting frustrated. More than anything, it's good people that are just getting wore down. And we just got to recharge our respect meters and treat each other the best we can here right now. So other than that, nothing else that I need to report right now. I do want to thank Dale and his department for that report, and admin for getting it up to us as they did. And again, we will look at that in a month, and we'll expect some decisions. Like, again, if anybody has anything else that they want to ask or bring forward, anything else regarding that, it is a very big purchase. And I don't think anybody should take this lightly. So, okay, in that light, we will move around to Director's highlights. And we'll start with you, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a whole lot to present today. Council was sent an email today on the volunteer income tax program. If anybody has any questions about those numbers, please feel free to contact myself or Julie. Just to let council know, the arena plant was shut down today with StarTech. They were in. So that process has started, and the multiplex will be turned off tomorrow. So those facilities are in the shutdown process.
Okay.
That's all I got, sir.
Thank you very much. Dale, what do you got?
Well, what I've been working on is a very nice compaction report that was getting ready for council here for today. That would burn up some time. We are still digging away at Southeast 17. I know I did a radio interview on 106 with Jameson, and that aired on Friday. And since Friday till just now on Tuesday, we already made some advancements on that news story. So the lift station will be coming back to the town for the next few days for our final review, because we've added our comments and different things we wanted. And once we get that completed and sent back, if there's not too much to change, which I doubt there will be, then we're going to be heading out to tender on the lift station portion. So things are coming along. We're making some headway with Alberta Environment on our wetlands. So that's good news as well, because that, as we all know, is what could hold things up or make them roll through, but rightfully so. It's an important it's an important thing to maintain. So that's what we've been doing down here. So
Excellent. Keep up the good work. Paul Casey.
Thanks, Your Worship. I don't have a whole lot either, but working through the audit, got everything over to the auditors on Friday. So they have everything they need other than the actual documentation, so they can start their audit whenever they want, but they're scheduled to come next Monday to Wednesday. We did receive all of the funds under the MOST grant. The week before last, we received the $800,000 advance under the ISIP or the STIP grant. With respect to the grants in place and taxes, I was in touch with them again today, and they responded that the $47,000 that they had paid was the result of a glitch in their system, and they have fixed that, and we should expect the balance of our money shortly. Exactly, the words were shortly, so I don't know what that means, but at least because I wanted to know if there was an issue with the rolls as why they were missed, and they said no, they've all been approved for payment and you'll be getting your money shortly. So just wanted to let you know that's $948,000. So
Seems like a fair amount.
Yeah. And that's all I have for now.
And do you have expectation when your number one employee will be back to work?
Oh, yes, May 3rd.
May 3rd, okay.
Yeah.
Right after the audit's done.
Yeah, right after the audit's done, right after the tax assessment is prepared and ready to go, she'll be back. Yeah.
We look forward to that.
Okay.
Thank you. Cliff Drake, you're up next.
Thank you, Your Worship. The AMSC Energy Program. So in 2001, AMSC Energy Program was established and town of Vegreville became a participant. It provides electricity and natural gas aggregation procurement for its municipal members at greatly reduced pricing. So AMSC Energy offered a renewal of the natural gas aggregation program for the years 2022 through 2026, of which Vegreville has participated in the offering. So I renewed it for up for another 5 years, up till the end of 2026. So just in case you hear from in contacts with other AUMA members, so Vegreville did participate. You've already seen the fraternization policy, the municipal police service agreement information request we'd also discussed. History on Southeast 17. At the last legislative committee meeting when we were talking about the naming contest, we wanted to put a little history in there. And so I did up a small blurb, and I reached out to Counsellor Rudick to help me word this. I knew she had a good background on this, especially with the discussions we've had through economic development. It's turned out it's not an easy, quick two-liner. So we do have the ad that will be in the paper for tomorrow, just announcing the contest. So what we can do is update our information on the website. So and we're trying to direct people to the website so they can see the contest. So we'll get something written. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Councillor Rudick, or?
I guess just to echo what you were saying, it's harder to write an interesting historical tale of exciting proportions about a plot of land, but something that we felt was important to be able to share with the public so that they knew what they were naming and why. Why would we be excited about changing the name from a land description to embody the vision and the project up to this point? So I think Cliff had already had to put the ad in the paper. And so some of the pieces that I had sort of added on there were maybe a little bit more flowery and could be used in the social media realm to try to create a background story or understanding for people to understand the project.
Okay. Furnishings for the Economic Development Office and Boardroom. A couple weeks ago, Council saw what the plans would be for our, I'll say, former council chambers. So the town has secured some previously used furnishings in excellent condition for the new Economic Development Office and Boardroom at an excellent price, I'll add as well. Communications and Marketing Manager Recruitment. So as of February 12, Richardson Executive Search have been in contact with 40, that's 40 individuals regarding the position. They are currently compiling a short list of potential candidates. I have a Teams meeting with them tomorrow morning. I will be on vacation February 22nd through 26th, so next week. I will be out of the office and returning to work on March the 1st. And then I attended the following virtual meetings and/or events. Part of the Reynolds Mirth Richards Farmer Law Seminar. I was unable to connect into the AUMA President Summit on Policing. I will try, I was registered, I will try for tomorrow's session. And then I also was part of the Vegreville and District Chamber of Commerce AGM. So, as well as some other business meetings now that of course are all online. So that's my report.
Okay. So I don't know who's registered for Brownlee Emerging Trends, but it's on the 18th. That's next thing coming up. And I don't know who else is going to be on the policing, AUMA policing one tomorrow, but those that are registered. Cliff, you will?
Sorry, I thought you were looking for a show of hands who was going to be on the AUMA policing.
Who's all on there? Good, good. Okay, I have a closed session item and it's under labor. So whatever that comes up to, whatever number that is, Cliff, you can write it in on the minutes. So I would look for a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Rudick, thank you very much. Does anybody need like a 5-minute break or anything like that? Paul, you would like to have a break? Okay, take 5 and then we'll come back.